Some of these men did things on a football pitch that almost anywhere else would have meant a police report, not a 3-match suspension. Others were convicted in real courts. What they all have in common is what happened next, because somehow every one of them just carried on like nothing happened. Marcos Alonso. Marcos Alonso was 20 years old, a Bolton player home in Madrid for the summer and driving at more than double the speed limit. It was the early hours of a wet night in May 2011, and he'd been drinking. His blood alcohol was nearly twice the Spanish legal limit. On a 50-kilometer-an-hour road, he lost control and hit a wall. 3 passengers were injured. A young woman in the car was killed. Alonso was charged with reckless homicide and drink driving and faced up to 4 years in prison. The sentence was reduced to 21 months, and then, remarkably, he never served a day of it. In February 2016, the case was closed with a fine of €61,000 and a driving ban of 3 years and 4 months. No jail. The crash didn't end his career, it barely interrupted it. Alonso kept playing in England and then Italy, and in 2016, the same year his case was finally closed, he signed for Chelsea. He became a regular starter, won the Premier League, won the Champions League, played for Spain, and later moved to Barcelona. The crash followed him. Opposing fans still taunted him about it years later, but it never stopped him. A fatal accident at 20 that should, by any measure, have ended everything. And instead, he built a career at the very top and stayed there for years. Karim Benzema. This is a player who was convicted in a French court while ranked as one of the best footballers on the planet. In 2015, Karim Benzema became tangled in an attempt to blackmail his France teammate Mathieu Valbuena over a stolen private video. Benzema wasn't the blackmailer. What prosecutors said he did was lean on Valbuena to pay the people who were, a quiet word in a teammate's ear, steering him towards the trap. It cost him dearly. He was frozen out of the France national team for more than 5 years. And in November 2021, a court in Versailles found him guilty of complicity in the blackmail attempt, handing him a 1-year suspended sentence and a fine of €75,000. He always denied wrongdoing. And here's the remarkable part. Within a year of that verdict, Benzema had won the Champions League with Real Madrid and been crowned the best player in the world, collecting the Ballon d'Or. Convicted in one season, football's greatest individual prize the next. Few players have ever fallen so far and climbed back so completely. Joey Barton. Now, most players on this list are here for a single moment. Joey Barton is here for a collection. His career was one long series of flashpoints. It started at Manchester City in 2004, when he stubbed a lit cigar into the eye of a young teammate at the club Christmas party. 3 years later, still at City, he assaulted teammate Ousmane Dabo on the training ground, leaving him needing hospital treatment. For that, he got a 4-month suspended sentence and 200 hours of community service, and he never played for City again. Then came the most serious of the lot. In 2008, Barton was sentenced to 6 months in prison for an assault in Liverpool city centre, serving 74 days behind bars. So, a suspended sentence, a prison term, a long string of bans. The kind of record that ends most careers several times over. And yet Barton simply kept going. He played more than a decade in the Premier League and the Championship, captained sides, and after retiring, walked straight into management. Somehow, none of it ever quite stopped him. Ronaldinho. Time for one that's almost impossible to be angry about. In March 2020, Ronaldinho, one of the most beloved footballers who ever lived, flew into Paraguay for a promotional trip and tried to enter the country using a fake passport. He and his brother were arrested on the spot and thrown into a maximum security prison in the capital, Asunción. He turned 40 in his cell. He faced up to 5 years. Now, for almost anyone else, that's a nightmare. For Ronaldinho, it became folklore. Inside, he did what he'd always done. he played football. The story goes that he starred in a prison futsal tournament, and legend has it, his team's prize was a roasted pig. After 32 days, he was moved to house arrest in a hotel, and in August, roughly 5 months after he'd arrived, he pleaded guilty, paid a fine, and was released. He'd always insisted he didn't know the passport was fake, and the damage to his reputation? Practically none. He went home a legend, if anything with a better story than before. Only Ronaldinho could go to prison and come out more loved.
René Higuita. This next one might be the strangest legal story in football. René Higuita, the wild, roaming goalkeeper Colombians called El Loco, was a childhood acquaintance of the drug lord Pablo Escobar. In 1993, Higuita agreed to act as a go-between in a kidnapping, helping to deliver ransom money that secured the release of a kidnapped girl. He was paid around $64,000 for his role. The problem was a very specific one. Under Colombian law, it's an offense to profit from a kidnapping, and that's exactly what he'd done. Higuita was arrested and spent about 7 months in prison, insisting the whole time that he was just a footballer who knew nothing about kidnapping laws and had only tried to help. He even went on a 2-week hunger strike in protest. He was released in early 1994, but the time inside left him unfit, and he missed that summer's World Cup entirely. And yet it barely touched him. He came back, and in 1995 produced the outrageous scorpion kick against England that made him a global icon. Strange, a little tragic, and unmistakably Higuita. Kurt Zouma. Now this one caused genuine public anger. In February of 2022, a video filmed inside Kurt Zouma's home showed the West Ham defender mistreating one of his pet cats. His brother posted it online, and the reaction was instant and enormous. The RSPCA investigated, and Zouma pleaded guilty to 2 counts of causing unnecessary suffering to an animal. He was sentenced to 180 hours of community service, banned from keeping cats for 5 years, and ordered to pay court costs of nearly £9,000. His 2 cats were taken into care. The fallout went well beyond the courtroom. West Ham fined him the maximum 2 weeks' wages, around £250,000, and gave it to animal charities. Adidas dropped him as a sponsor. France stopped picking him. It was about as much public condemnation as a footballer can attract in a single week. And yet Zouma was never suspended by his club. His manager kept selecting him, he stayed in the West Ham side, and he carried on as a Premier League footballer through all of it. Tony Adams. Not every story here ends in disgrace. Some end in something close to respect. In 1990, Tony Adams was already the captain of Arsenal, a leader of men in his early 20s, when he crashed his car into a wall while more than 4 times over the drink-drive limit. This wasn't a caution or a fine. He was sentenced to 4 months in prison and served around 2 months of it in Chelmsford jail, while Arsenal went on to win the league title without him. For a lot of players, that's the end. Adams came out and captained Arsenal again. But the deeper story is what came later. His drinking got worse before it got better, until in 1996 he finally stopped for good. He went on to captain title-winning Arsenal sides in 3 different decades, and to captain England. And after football, he founded the Sporting Chance Clinic, which helps sports people battling addiction. Today he's remembered not as a cautionary tale, but as one of the most respected figures in the English game. A rare thing on this list, a man who fell and genuinely climbed back. Luis Suárez. Here's where things shift a little. Not everyone on this list was convicted of anything. Sometimes football simply treats behavior very differently to the way the outside world would. Take Luis Suárez. Suárez is one of the finest strikers of his generation, and he has bitten 3 separate opponents on a football pitch. He bit Otman Bakel while at Ajax and got a 7-match ban.
He bit Branislav Ivanovic while at Liverpool and got 10. Then, at the 2014 World Cup, he bit Italy's Giorgio Chiellini and was banned for 4 months from all football. Along the way, he was also suspended for 8 matches for racially abusing Patrice Evra, which he denied. Now think about that for a second. Almost anywhere else in life, biting another person 3 times would be treated as something far more serious than a suspension. In football, it was bans and headlines, and then he simply kept playing. In fact, that same summer he bit Chiellini, Barcelona signed him. He went on to win the Champions League and multiple league titles alongside Messi. The teeth became a punchline. The career never even paused.
Diego Maradona. Diego Maradona's genius was matched only by his talent for controversy, and none of it ever seemed to touch his legend. In 1991, while at Napoli, he failed a drug test for cocaine and was banned for 15 months. 3 years later, at the 1994 World Cup, he tested positive for a banned stimulant and was thrown out of the tournament, ending his international career in disgrace. And in between came the strangest incident of all. In early 1994, furious at reporters camped outside his Buenos Aires home, Maradona fired an air rifle at them, injuring several. He was found guilty of assault with a weapon and given a suspended sentence of 2 years and 10 months. Add years of tax disputes in Italy on top of that, and you have a rap sheet that would sink almost anyone. Yet Maradona is genuinely adored around the world. In Naples and in Argentina, he was treated as something close to a god, and no scandal, not one, ever changed that. The rules, quite simply, seemed to bend around him. Eric Cantona. And we finish with the most famous moment of the lot. January 1995. Manchester United are away at Crystal Palace and Eric Cantona has just been sent off. As he walks towards the tunnel, a home supporter hurls abuse at him from the stands, and Cantona responds by launching himself feet first into the crowd with a flying kung fu kick, followed by a few punches for good measure. It remains one of the most astonishing things ever seen on a football pitch. Cantona pleaded guilty to common assault and was initially sentenced to 2 weeks in prison. On appeal, a judge ruled he shouldn't be jailed simply for being famous and reduced it to 120 hours of community service, which he served coaching children. The Football Association banned him for 8 months, a lengthy ban and extraordinary for the time. Had a grown man aimed a kick like that at a stranger almost anywhere other than a football stadium, it might have been treated very differently. Instead, Cantona came back, won more titles, and retired a Manchester United legend. His most iconic moment wasn't a goal, it was that. Football has always been a strange world, where some of the most famous men on earth have walked away from things that would have followed anyone else around for life. Which story surprised you the most? And which footballer do you think should have been on this list? I'll see you in the next one.